Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You know, sometimes movies just hit a little different, and guess what? If you're within the sound of my voice, that must mean you're in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave White, and I'm the host of this podcast where we sit down with a wide ranging variety of entertainment industry professionals. We pick their brain about current projects, state of the industry, how they got started, and so very much more in a light and conversational fashion. And you know, if you like how we do things around here, I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that you do, because quite frankly, you're listening. And if you are, hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, give us a 5-star rating on your podcast provider of choice. We're pretty much everywhere. We're on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google, and plus we archive every single one of our episodes over at our In the Seats YouTube channel. So if you can give us a like and subscribe there as well, we'd absolutely appreciate it. Also, don't hesitate to check us out on social media. We're on the Facebook, the Twitter, the Instagram, the Letterboxd, the TikTok, and probably a few other places that I've forgotten about at In the Seats for all sorts of fun updates. But finally, and I do dare say most importantly, please pay us a visit over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca, for all the latest and greatest from the world of film, television, basically the moving image at large. Because guess what? If we love to watch it and write about it and talk about it, we love it even more when you come by and read about it and listen about it. So do us that absolute kindness and pay us a visit. On this episode, kids, we got a fun one. We are diving into a film we had a chance to first see last year back at the Toronto International Film Festival, but is now coming out in theaters everywhere, especially here in Canada, thanks to our friends from Films We Like. And movie, it is called The Settlers, and it's well, I loved it because it's from director Felipe Galvez, and it is set in Chile in the turn of the century, it's kind of 1901, and there are these three horsemen who are paid to protect this massive piece of land, this huge estate, and it's this combination of a British soldier, an American mercenary, and a sniper of mixed race, and he realizes that this young man of mixed race who comes from this territory realizes that he's on a mission to kill the indigenous population of this territory, and it's brutal, it's beautiful, it's really a stunning piece of work. Like I said, from co-writer and director Felipe Galvez, but we talked to him with the help of a translator, just to ask him about the origins of the film, making it, the sort of the style of it all, and so very much more. Like I said, go to your local listings if you're in Toronto. It is playing at the TIFF Bell Lightbox. Check out The Settlers, but first, check out our talk with Felipe Galvez, because between you and me, it's a darn good one. All right. Well, Felipe, obviously, just first off, I just want to say thank you so much for the time today, and congratulations on the film. I thought it was fantastic.
Thank you, David.
Now, I guess my first question is, I got to see this first at TIFF, and I got to watch it again just the other day. I was so struck by it because it's rare to see a film like this dealing with this time period and sort of the brutality of it, also have kind of the emotional nuance that we have, especially through these characters. Like, walk me through, I guess, sort of the origin of wanting to tell this story, particularly on your end.
La verdad es que descubrí en un medio salió una fotografía que mostraba a justamente hombres que cazaban Selknam, que cazaban indígenas, y ellos se sacaban retratos, hacían fotos posadas con los cuerpos y posaban. Y eran imágenes que parecía un western o parecía una película como de África, un safari, ¿entiendes? Como que en esa puesta en escena que ellos mismos, esa foto que ellos mismos se sacaban cometiendo estos crímenes, estaba estetizada y probablemente se ocupaba en el imaginario de ellos ya el cine como referencia. ¿Entiendes? O sea, como ideas como como heroicas, ¿no? Y me pareció que cuando vi esa foto que había que hacer una película de eso. Y desde ahí, además, lo que me interesó fue esa foto, quise hacer una película de eso y sobre ellos, sobre la película siempre, lo primero que se me ocurrió fue hacer una película desde el punto de vista de quienes participaban en estos viajes, Y eso fue lo más difícil al final de cuentas, porque es una idea que se va haciendo complicada a medida que avanza, porque no hay héroes, porque te deja sin héroes y es como seguir a tres personajes que no son héroes durante toda una película.
Yeah, so how it happened was I was looking through a newspaper and I saw this photo showing these men who were kind of pictured posed next to the bodies of murdered Selknam indigenous people. And they were kind of posed as if almost as if they were on a safari, like these kind of hunt trophies that they were showing
Mm.
off. Something like a safari or a western. There was that kind of vibe to the photo. Um, and so in that, what I saw in this photo was that in the very act of taking this photo, they themselves had conceived of themselves as being in this kind of cinematic scene, right?
Mm.
Like they almost saw themselves as heroic in a sense. Um, so I wanted to make a film about these people. That was the initial idea. Um, and my first thinking was I wanted to make a film from the perspective of people of people at this angle of the story, and that was always going to be complicated because in the history of colonialism, there's no heroes really. They saw themselves as heroes, but there weren't any heroes in my film.
Absolutely. And I mean, these characters, in many ways, almost feel like they're existing in a certain degree of limbo, almost sort of a hearts of darkness kind of sort of really kind of an ethereal state. And I loved the visual aesthetic that the film had. Can you talk to me a little bit about sort of painting the world for these characters and making it feel like they're in this sort of limbo-esque state?
Mm. A mí hay algo que es interesante también de los personajes, que es que algunos son reales, ¿no? McLellan es un personaje real que existió y parece un personaje de ficción, que parece un personaje casi de un cómic. Y Vicuña es un personaje que no existió, que está totalmente de la ficción y es basado en otros personajes y parece un personaje real. Eh, y están retratados también como de esa manera. Por ejemplo, esta película en un comienzo yo pensé hacerla en blanco y negro, pero sentía que si la hacía en blanco y negro iba a aparentarse en una película basada, como esta película trata de representar lo que sucedió en la realidad. Yo más bien traté de trabajar con una imagen más bien falsa, que artificial, ocupé la fotografía de los hermanos Lumière como referencia, la pintura, y para tener como un color, una forma artificial, los vestuarios de los personajes son pantalones de colores turquesa, entonces, para que se entendiera que era una película, que era una ficción y que no intenta buscar la realidad, porque a mí lo que me interesa un poco es mostrar la artificialidad del cine. ¿Se entiende? No, me interesa que vivan en un mundo, de alguna manera, McLellan son héroes. McLellan, el héroe del siglo XX de películas militares, y también el héroe del siglo XIX de novelas de aventura. Eh, Bill es un cowboy que es el héroe de comienzo del siglo XX del cine americano. Y Segundo, yo digo que es como un héroe del cine del nuevo cine latinoamericano, un antihéroe. Entonces, lo que trato de decir es que estos personajes viven en el cine, ¿se entiende? Son como que habitan, son personajes que habitan, donde habitan en películas. Entonces, cuando uno los filma, está filmando muchos personajes de muchas películas. Eh, y yo creo que es Tierra del Fuego y ese escenario el que lo imprime de un lugar casi onírico, de un lugar, de un tiempo, de una imagen que casi no, como muy antigua, que no sabemos si existió o no. Es como, siempre que yo pensaba en la película era como el parque Jurassic Park, ¿no? Cuando uno va a un lugar y están los dinosaurios, es como que estos personajes aún están vivos en ese lugar. Uno los siente vivos como reales.
Um, so yeah, initially when something interesting about the characters in this film is you've got McLennan on the one hand, who was a real person from history, who actually existed, but he seems fake, right? He seems like a comic book character. And then on the other hand, you've got Vicuña, who's made up, but perhaps seems more realistic. So there's that strange contradiction you've got
Right.
there. Um, and I wanted to make the film in black and white. But then I thought, no, in fact, I don't want to do this because if I were to film it in black and white, it would make it seem as if I was portraying some kind of historical fact, right? Some documentary. And what I wanted to do was to kind of create more of an obvious kind of use an aesthetic that was more obviously fictionalizing the film, right? So I went for the early color experiments used by the Lumiere brothers, um, so that the audience would understand that I actually wasn't trying to recreate reality, but it was intentionally fictionalized. Um, and I wanted to, yeah, so I wanted to show the artificiality of the story. And then in terms of McLennan, I mean, I feel like he's the kind of archetypal hero of a 20th century, early 20th century cowboy movie. And also he's kind of similar to the sort of heroes that you get in the new wave of Latin American films, like these kind of anti-heroes we're seeing.
Right.
Um, so when you're filming these characters, you're always kind of filming various levels of personality in there, if you see what I mean. And I think that Patagonia was kind of a great landscape to film this in because the way the scenes were shot, the landscapes, it kind of created this sort of ethereal sense of like this place seems so ancient. It's like, did it really actually exist or not? So there's almost this sense of like Jurassic Park sort of vibe to it, where you're sort of thinking like, are these characters, did they really exist at the time? You know, it's ethereal and strange.
I love it. Now, I mean, I know you have an extensive experience as an editor in film, and I mean, it kind of reminds me of the old joke of Alfred Hitchcock only shooting what he needed for his editor, so the editor couldn't screw up the film. I'm kind of curious, how did your experience as an editor inform you as a filmmaker, especially this time doing your very first feature?
Hice exactamente eso. No, seguí a Hitchcock. La verdad que lo que más me sirvió es que bueno, para nosotros fue difícil financiar esta película. Y, y, y lo que hice, el ejercicio más grande que se hizo fue editar mucho el guión. Entonces, nosotros ocupamos todas las escenas del guión. El guión se filmó completamente y se ocuparon todas las escenas en la película, solo se borró una. Que yo ya cuando la filmé la había borrado. Dije, esta escena no me va a funcionar y la reemplacé por otra. O sea, improvisamos otra y básicamente lo que quiero decir con eso es que la película para poder haberse grabado en 4 semanas y media se filmaba muy poco y todo lo que se iba a ocupar. Entonces, eh, como tú dices, yo realmente cuando hago empiezo a hacer una escena y algo no funciona, no la hago. O sea, busco otra cosa. No es que hago 5 tomas. En una película que fue filmada 2 tomas por escena, eh, y que generalmente cuando llegó al montaje, el montajista se reía porque decía, bueno, estaba premontada, ¿no? Venía muy preeditada. Eso se puede ver en la escena de la matanza con la niebla, que está construida de muchos pequeños momentos que yo logro imaginármelo en mi cabeza, tanto porque soy montajista durante muchos años y tanto porque soy muy disléxico. Entonces vengo de pensar en imágenes. Entonces logro prever la escena y editarla en mi cabeza. Tanto así que nosotros nunca volvimos a rever el material. Viste, lo normal es llegar a la isla de edición y ver el material. Yo nunca lo volví a ver, sino que solo pusimos las escenas que yo ya tenía marcadas que íbamos a ocupar. Y solo ocupamos eso, lo cual también al montajista se reía porque lo encontraba totalmente una locura, ¿no? Pero nunca toqué el mouse tampoco. Nunca yo monté, porque creo que uno de los procesos más importantes del montaje es la discusión. Lo que uno espera, yo por lo menos lo que espero de mi montajista es que me diga la verdad y que me digan los problemas que encuentra en la película, no solamente el trabajo técnico de cortar. Entonces, eh, pero el ser montajista a mí me ha ayudado mucho es como mi forma de pensar, ¿no? Tiene que ver con mi caligrafía de cine, ¿no? La casa de Menéndez, eh, yo quería hacer como un reloj, que fuera como un reloj, y cuando ya íbamos habiendo hecho 20 cortes, yo dije, bueno, hagamos 100 cortes. Hicimos una escena donde hayan 100 cortes. Entonces, yo diría que hay varias ideas de Hitchcock en en términos de montaje y guión.
So yeah, it's exactly that. I followed Hitchcock. So for us, one of the main things was it was difficult to finance the film, and one of the biggest challenges was to edit the script. So you know there was actually only one scene that I filmed that I got rid of, and I ended up replacing that with an improvised scene. Um, and in the 4.5 weeks the filming took place over, we filmed very little, and kind of almost everything that we filmed we used. Um, so when I started, for me, like, when I start filming a scene and I see that it's not working, I just drop it and I try something else. I don't do several takes again and again. Um, I mean, the editor was joking that like it was almost as if the script came kind of pre-edited. Uh, like, um, so you know the scene with the massacre in the fog. There were loads of kind of unexpected things that happened there that we just kept. And this is partly because, you know, partly down to my experience as an editor, but also partly because I have a very visual imagination. I'm kind of quite dyslexic, so I kind of preview everything visually in my mind, if you like. And the editor laughed. He's like, "This is crazy, you know, what's going on here?" But I never lay my finger on the mouse in terms of editing myself. I wanted the editor to kind of be able to speak truthfully to me about problems he saw in the film. Yeah, and so I think being an editor helped a lot. Um, and with the Menendez house towards the end, I wanted to kind of make it. I based it around like a watch.
Mm,
Um, yeah, so very inspired by Hitchcock.
love it. Absolutely love it. Now, I mean, I'm curious because obviously you have done some short films, but I'm curious, is there anything that you learned sort of at the end of the experience of doing a feature that maybe you didn't expect to?
Algo que aprendiste de la experiencia de hacer un largo, que no esperabas.
Mm, trabajar con animales, no. Trabajar con caballo es muy difícil. Yo pensaba que hacer una película con tres hombres a caballo en exterior, donde no íbamos a necesitar tantas luces, iba a ser una película muy económica, como simple de hacer. Y lo que aprendí es que el papel, la página en blanco lo soporta todo y que, y que aprendí que todo tiene un costo y todo es muy difícil, ¿no? Aprendí a que todo lo que uno pone en un guión tiene que pensar si es realmente factible de hacer o si realmente uno sabe, voy a saber dirigir esa escena. Em, Todas las escenas como con animales, escenas con niños, son extremadamente complejas y, y eso aprendí. Creo que la próxima vez, cada vez que escribo algo, voy a tener mucho más cuidado, eh, y no voy a volver a pensar que es económico algo. Era bastante naif cuando, hace 10 años, cuando partí escribiendo Los Colonos, y más bien yo fui aprendiendo todo haciendo esta película. Es una película como que muy autodidacta, ¿no? Que nos enseñó a hacer todo. Nos enseñó de guión, aprendimos a guionar, aprendí de personaje, aprendimos de producción, de festivales, de distribuciones. En la película me ha enseñado todo y en las próximas trataremos de hacer las cosas más conscientes, ¿no? Que no siempre es bueno, porque esta fue totalmente inconsciente, todo, o muchas cosas, y bastante bien funcionó, creo. Entonces, también me da miedo ahora ser tan consciente.
Yeah, I think working with animals, working with horses was particularly difficult. I thought that kind of filming scenes with three men, some horses, and with very little lighting would be easy. I was mistaken. Um, and I learned that everything has a cost, right? Lots of
Mm,
unexpected things that have a cost. and to really think about if something is really necessary uh, in advance. Filming scenes with animals and children was really complex. Um, so I think every time when I film in the future, I think I'll be really aware of these things that I learned, these lessons I learned. So I was very naive when I set out on this, and it taught me a lot. It was a real learning process. I kind of learned about everything in the process. I learned about production, cast, festivals. It was a comprehensive learning process, and I think next time I'll be more aware of those things. But also, there's a part of me that thinks, well, it went really well, even though I wasn't aware of these things. So in part, I'm kind of cautious or fearful around actually being too aware of these lessons I've learned.
Well, at the very least, Felipe, I hope the next film is easier to fund. But I mean, honestly, just congratulations on this film. I think it's a hell of a piece of work. And I mean, just thank you again so much for the time today.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Bye, Joe. And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.